In today's video, we are going to learn about how to define the object of the class. In previous video, we have learned how to define the class. An object is a real-world element which is identifiable entity with some characteristics and behavior. An object, it has its own characteristics and behavior. An object is an instance of a class. An object is normally defined in the main function. Once we define the class, then we can define the object. In our previous class, we have studied how to define the class. Class name. Inside the bracket, we have private and public. That is, private will have data members and member functions. Those are the members of the class. And public, again we have data members and member functions. Those are the members of the class. Once we define the class, we can close it with the bracket and put a semicolon. Once we define the class, then we can define the object. Mostly the objects are defined inside the main function. Inside the main function, we have to mention the same class name which we have given to the class name. Then we have to mention the object number. Any number of objects can be defined once the class has been defined. Class name, object name 1, object name 2, object name 3. It can go on. N number of objects can be defined. So this is how we are defining an object. This question you might get for 2 marks. That is how the object has been defined inside the class. That is using a class name, object name. That any number of objects can be defined. Object 1, object 2, object n. In this example, we will see how to define the object of the class. This is only a part of the program. The entire program is not shown here. That is, in order to define the objects of the class, we have to define the class first. So class name is num. Inside the brackets, you have got private and public. Private and public are the access specifiers. Int xy is the data members. Int sum, int difference. These are the member functions of the class. And int p and int q are the arguments in the mentioned along with the member functions. Void main. Inside the void main, we have to define the object of the class. First, we have to mention the class name, that is num, and then the object name s1 and s2 has to be declared. So this statement is used to define the objects of the class. That is class name. Then you are defining the object 1, that is s1, object 2, s2, and then we put a semicolon. So s1 dot sum, and inside the bracket you have got arguments. We are calling this member function using the object s1. Sum is the member function name, and 200 and 300 is the arguments. Again you have got s2. S2 is again an object name. Dot difference is the member function name. 600 comma 500 is the arguments. Then we are closing the bracket. So here in this program, it gives an example how the objects are being defined. Objects are defined along with the class name. Class name you have to mention. The class name is num, and then the object name, that is s1, and object name s2. Accessing the members of the class. A member of the class can be data or functions. Private and protected members of a class can be accessed only through member functions of the class. The public data members of the objects of a class can be accessed using a direct member access operator or the dot operator. So let us see the syntax for accessing the data member of the class. Object name dot operator is also known as direct member access operator. Then the data member name. Same way, the syntax for accessing the member function of the class, object name dot member function, and the brackets you have to mention the arguments. Let us see an example. That is void main. In order to find out the area of the rectangle, that is rectangle is the class name R1, and R1 is the object name. Clear screen. In order to clear the output screen, R1 object name dot member function name, in brackets you don't have any arguments, and put a semicolon. Again R1 dot compute, in brackets there is no arguments. Again R1 dot display, in brackets no arguments. So you are using a dot operator in order to access the member function of the class. So you have to use an object name dot member function name and in brackets, if arguments are there, you can mention the arguments. If there is no arguments, it is left blank. We are calling the member function using the object name dot operator and the member function name, and brackets arguments should be mentioned if it is there, otherwise you have to leave it blank. So in the syntax we saw that object name dot member function, in the brackets argument should be mentioned. So this is how you can access the members of the class. For 1 mark they might ask you which operator is used to access the members of the class. So you have to mention it as dot operator. Dot operator is the operator which is used to access the members of the class. Which are the members of the class? The members of the class are data member and member functions. You can access the data member as well as the member function using the dot operator. The other name for dot operator is direct member access operator. Array can be used as the member of the class. Array can be used as the data member of the class. An array can also be used as the private or public member of the class. As we are using the different data variables in our programs, same way you can use the array also as a data member of the class in order to access the class. Let us see an example, that is to find the frequency presence of an element in an array. So this is a practical program, this first practical program. Let us see how the element is, whether an element is present in an array and how many times that element is present. That is what we are going to find out in this program. So there are two header files, that is hash include iostream.h and hash include conio.h. Next thing what we have to do is we have to define the class. The class definition, already I have explained you how to define a class. Always a class has to be defined with a keyword class. Then the class name is frequency over here. Frequency is the class name. Then open the bracket. Inside the class definition, you have two access specifiers, that is private and public. Under private, you have got int. Int is the data type. A of 10 is the array, that is A is the array name. And in the brackets, you have mentioned the size, that is 10. And then n is again a variable. I is used for loop. ELE for the search element. And freq is used to find the number of times that element is present. So these variables which are defined here are called as data members, and they are being defined under the access specifier private. And next is public. Under public access specifier, you have got void read data, void findfreq and void display. These are the member function declarations which have been done here. And close the bracket and then put a semicolon. So you have defined your class here. In order to make you clear, I will repeat what I have told you. That is, class is the keyword, frequency is the class name. And inside the brackets, you have got two access specifiers, that is private and public. Private access specifier is used to define the data members that are used only within the class, that can be accessed only within the class, and public can be accessed inside the class or outside the class. So these are the data members, that is A of 10. A of 10 is the array name is A, and the inside the brackets 10 is the size, and n is a variable, that is it will give the array size. I is used for loop. ELE is the search element, and freq, it will count the number of times the element is present. Int is the data type. So this is how we are defining the class, and then put a semicolon at the end after the bracket. So you have defined your class. Next you have to void is a return type. Frequency is the class name. The two colons are called as scope resolution operator. The scope resolution operator, it is used to define the member function outside the class. Inside this member function definition, you have the statements, that is cout. Cout, enter the array size and you will accept the value n. N is the size of the array, that is whatever the value you give, that is, for example, if you give n as 5, so you are accepting the value of the n. Cout, enter the array elements. Endl will go to the next statement. Then you have the for statement. In the for statement there are three statements. One is I is equal to 0 is initialization, I less than n is the condition, and I plus plus is incrementation. So you close the bracket. Three statements is there. In order to access the elements, that is in order to accept the elements, we are using this for loop. C in, again you are accepting the elements, that is a of 0, a of 1, a of 2. Suppose there are 5 elements, then till a of 4 we will accept the values. So 5 elements have been accepted. Always an array size, that is it will start from 0 and it will end with n minus 1. See out, enter the element to find the frequency NL. C in ELE, that is element. This element is the element to be searched in the array, that how many times it occurs. The next member function is findfreq. Again this is the member function definition which has been declared inside the class. Now we are defining that member function over here using the return type void. Frequency is the class name and two colons we are used, that is scope resolution operator. Findfreq is the member function name. Then inside the bracket freq is equal to 0. Freq is used to count the number of times the element occurs. For that initially the count, that is freq, will be 0. For I is equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, again we are using a for loop in order to check whether the elements in an array is equal to the element that has to be searched. So a of 0 will check each element with the search element. If the search element and the element in an array both are same, then the freq value will be incremented. I will show you with an example, then you will be able to understand it better. But here the statements are given, that is freq is equal to 0. Freq is initially 0. Later the freq will get incremented only if the array element and the search element is same. That is, it will check each element one by one, and if the search element and the array element both are same, then the freq will be incremented. Void frequency display. So the once we check all the elements and we find out the freq value, then we can display how many times that element is occurred. If freq is greater than 0, if the freq is initially 0, if the element is found, it gets incremented. Then if the value is greater than 0 freq value, then that element is present in the array. So it will print that the element occurs freq times. That is, any element it can be, it will occur how many times it will check. So once we find out if freq is greater than 0, it will display it, that is 10 occurs 2 times, 20 occurs 3 times. So it will display the value. Else, if suppose the freq is equal to 0 itself, then the output will be that element does not exist. The element is not present in the array itself. So this is a member function which is used to display the output. So we have three member functions. One is first one is read data. Read data, we are accepting the input. That is, first input what we have accepted is array size n, then the array elements, then the element to find the frequency. So these are the input what we have accepted. The next thing, we are finding out the frequency, that is whether the element is present in that array, and if it is present, how many times it is present. In the third function, member function, we display the output. So in this program we have three member functions. One is read data, the second one is findfreq, and the third one is display. So all the three member functions have been defined here. The next is void main. In the void main, frequency is the class name and f is the object name. Then you have clear screen. This is how we are defining the object of the class. We are using a class name and the object name. Object name is f and frequency is the class name. Then you have clear screen. Clear screen is the is used to clear the output screen. That is, previous output screen will be cleared. F dot read data, we are calling the member function here using the object name and the dot operator and the member function name. The first function will be called. Any program will start from void main. In the void main, the particular functions will be called. So here it will, first function read data will be called, and the control will go to the read data and it will execute those statements over there. Once it completes those statements, it comes back to the next, that is find freq, that is f is the object name, dot operator we have used. As I have told you before, use dot operator in order to access the members of the class. So find, that is find freq is a member function name. In order to access this find freq, we have to use the object name dot operator and the member function name. Then the control will go to the find freq, and find freq it will execute all those statements, and then it will come back to the same void main. Again f dot display, f is the object name dot operator, then display, it goes to the display and it will display the output and comes back to the void main. Get ch, it is used to display the output. So these are the member functions which have been defined inside the void main. In order to access these member functions, we have to use the object name and the dot operator. The other name for dot operator is direct access member operator. We use this operator to access the members of the class. Then what is the difference between dot operator and scope resolution operator? Dot operator is used to access the members of the class, and scope resolution operator is used to access the member function outside the class. Let us see this example in order to understand this program. Finding the frequency of 25 from the following. So n value, as I told you, we are accepting the values, that is in the read data we are accepting n value, then the array elements, then the search element. So n, for example, if you give n is equal to 5 and the array elements, that is a of 0 is 21, a of 1 is 16, a of 2 is 67, a of 3 is 25 and a of 4 is 19. So all the 5 elements are accepted here. Once you accept this element, the next step is to accept the search element. The search element is equal to 25. There is a condition in the find freq, that is element is equal to a of I, that is the search element is equal to the array element. In that case your frequency gets incremented, and then your condition becomes true and the freq value gets incremented. Otherwise the condition is false, then the freq value will remain same as the previous value. Let us see this example over here. The search element is 25 and the array element is 25. That is the first element, a of 0 is 25. Since both the elements are same, the condition is satisfied, then your freq, which was initially 0, will get incremented by 1. Now the next step, the I value gets incremented in the for loop. I is equal to 1. Then 25 is equal to 16. That is the next element. First element we have checked. Now we will check the second element, that is 25 equal to 16. The condition becomes false. In that case the freq will remain the previous value itself. Again now I gets incremented to 2 and 25 is equal to 67. Again the condition is false, freq will remain 1 itself. Now I is equal to 3, 25 is equal to 25, that is you are checking with a of 3, that is 25. So condition becomes true, that is it gets satisfied. Then the freq, previously it was 1, now it becomes 2. Now next element is I of 4. In I of 4 what is that? 19. So it will check the search element 25 will be checked with 19. Both are equal. No, it is not equal. The condition is false. So the freq value remains 2 itself. In this case 25, in this array 25 will be checked with all the elements of the array. If the 25 is present in the array, then the freq value gets incremented. Otherwise the freq value will remain same as the previous value. So 25 occurs 2 times in this array. So it occurs in a of 0 and a of 3. So it will display 2. That is 25 occurs 2 times. This is the output. Let us see the output of this program. I have given 2 outputs over here. The first output is enter the array size 5. Enter array elements. We have accepted 5 elements over here, and enter the element to find the frequency as 25. So this 25 will be checked with each element of an array. 25 will be checked with the first element. Yes, both are same. Then your frequency will be increased. Again 25 will be checked with 16. No, it is false. Again 25 is checked with 67. The condition is false. Again 25 will be checked with 25. The condition is true. Now the frequency will become 2. and 25 will be checked with 19, it's false. So here 25 will occur 2 times, it will display 25 occurs 2 times. Now second example, they enter the array size 4. Here the elements are being entered, 4 elements. Now 56 is the element to be checked with the array elements, whether that element is found in an array, and if it is found, how many times it occurs. So 56 is being checked with 25. Both are not same, so condition is false. Again 56 with 16, false. 56 with 67, false. Again 56 with 25, false. So this element is not present in the array, it will display as 56 does not exist.